All right. Good morning. Good to see you all. Thank you for joining us today. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Frost Distinguished Lecture Series. My name is Jonathan Halbesleben. I have the great honor of serving as the Dean of the Alvarez College of Business. Since 1988, the Frost Distinguished Lecture Series has brought prominent business and community leaders to UTSA to share their knowledge and experiences with our students. The value of the Frost Lecture Series is that it allows business leaders to personally share their stories with our students and inspire them to achieve personal success. Past speakers have included notable business leaders such as Carlos Alvarez, Charles Butt, Herbert Kelleher, Red McCombs, and Ed Whitaker, among many others. At this time, there are a few people I'd like to thank and acknowledge. First of all, I'd like to thank Frost Bank and the Frost family for their generous patronage of this lecture series and their continued support of UTSA and the Carlos Alvarez College of Business. Joining us today on behalf of Frost Bank is Jimmy Stead, Group Executive Vice President and Chief Consumer Banking Officer at Frost, and a proud Roadrunner himself, receiving his accounting degree here from the college. Jimmy, please stand so we can recognize and thank you. We've got a couple of other people that I'd like to acknowledge real briefly. Former Mayor and Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf is here. Nelson, if you could please stand. I'd also like to acknowledge the group here in the front row. So we've got some special visitors from TMI Episcopal just up the road here a little bit, in part because our guest speaker's son is here, but some of the business and economics classes have come over to hear the presentation as well. So welcome to all of you. And I'll be expecting all of you to be sitting in those seats when you're here for classes in a couple of years. So, all right. It is my pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Ramiro Cavazos, President and Chief Executive Officer of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. A trusted economic development expert, Cavazos is a champion for finding bipartisan solutions that generate wealth and advance economic opportunity for the Hispanic community. Prior to this role, he was President and Chief Executive Officer of the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for over 10 years. With a career that has spanned a variety of industries, including large corporations, government service, and even higher education, Cavazos has worked for the City of San Antonio, the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio, the Levi Strauss Company, Intercontinental Bank Shares Corporation, and he's even taught here at UTSA. A native of Weslaco, he is the chairman of the board for the Hispanic Association on Corporate Responsibility in Washington, and also serves on the board of the Council on Foreign Relations. As a thought leader on Latino entrepreneurship and small business growth, he has been featured in national publications such as Fortune, Forbes, and Time, and was recognized by Latino Leaders magazine as one of America's 101 most influential Latinos for the last 4 years. Cavazos earned his master's degree in public administration from St. Mary's University and his bachelor's degree in government from the University of Texas at Austin. Let's give a warm Roadrunner welcome to our distinguished speaker, Ramiro Cavazos.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you for the invitation to be here. I promise not to have any PowerPoints or slides. And towards the half of my presentation, I'm going to share some thoughts, things I've learned over the course of my work, and we'll probably walk around a bit. Wow, I'm really nervous because when I was coming, my wife said, "Well, you know, I graduated from the business school. You did not." And I said, "Well, I'm honored to be asked by the dean to speak. Business and economics are two of my three favorite topics. The third being political science." And so I was okay up until my son said, "Oh, Dad, our economics and business classes are going to be there. Mr. Foreman and Mr. Ridewood are taking our classes, and that's when the pressure really got pretty heavy. And I was like, oh gosh, TMI is in the house. So thank you. Let's welcome them again for being here. I'm honored that my son is here. He's a young leader like all of the young people at TMI, and I'm proud to be his father. And for those of you who think, oh, he named his son after him, that's his grandfather's name. So I'm just borrowing that name and giving it to you. So thank you for being here and for making us so proud. I'll try not to embarrass him too much today and his classmates. And then over the weekend, I was actually doing some grocery shopping. CEOs do grocery shopping every now and then. And I ran into Scott Wolf, Judge Wolf and Mayor Wolf's son, who also teaches here, who's one of my closest friends in life. And he said, hey, we were just talking about you. We're going to be at your presentation on Tuesday. My dad and I are going to be there. And that's when I said, I better pray that I have a message. So thank you, Judge, for your friendship. I had the honor of being his campaign manager when he ran for mayor now 33 years ago in 1990-91. I was 28, 29. He was in his late 40s, hitting 50. And we had 12 different opponents, and he won. And let's give him a round of applause for his years of service. One of the things, not to take the message off the subject, that I learned from Judge Wolf is to be very kind to others and to be very forgiving. I've never had this conversation with him, but as soon as we won, it was a brutal race. You know, you're younger and you think, okay, now it's our chance to stick it to them. You know, they were so nasty to us, and politics is worse now, 30 years later. And to his credit, I learned the wisdom of Judge Wolf, who was mayor at the time, that you need to let bygones be bygones. And he says, we're not going to do anything but treat everybody, whether they helped us or not, equally, because the city, we're going to bring it together. And he did. And so, Judge Wolf, thank you for that important lesson that you taught me many years ago. I'm, as you all know, very blessed to be here. I live not far from UTSA. I had the honor of going to UT Austin, as the deans shared. I took some classes at Pan American University at the time. I was the first one of 4 kids to go to college. I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas, 8 miles from the Mexican border. My family had been there since the late 1600s. They received the Spanish land grant. So I'm a 7th generation Texan. He's an 8th generation Texan. And you know, we grew up speaking English and Spanish. And for us, entrepreneurship was very important. Our grandparents had grocery stores on my mother's side and my dad's side. And so when I went to UT Austin, I had the honor of working for Senator Lloyd Bentsen, who was from McAllen. And I learned a lot from him early on. He spoke fluent Spanish. He was a statesman. They don't really make them like that anymore, I think. But what I learned is that I wanted to be in civic discourse and economics and business. So instead of going to law school, I ended up getting a master's degree in public administration. So my triple major was business, economics, and political science. So my family, they're ranchers and farmers. My father was also an elected official. He was a county commissioner. And, you know, I had plans to always go back home. And after I got my master's degree, I was trained to be a city manager. And, you know, San Antonio grows on you. So I fell in love with the city, and I've been fortunate to do good work over the years. Once I stayed, I ended up working for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in the late 80s when I was much younger, and I got the bug of entrepreneurship. And I'm not, someone that quotes too many economists, but I had the honor of being trained by Robert Reich. For 10 days, I had the honor during my work at the Chamber of traveling to Japan with 14 other Americans, 15 Chinese. This is before Tiananmen Square. For those of you that might know the history, when China was opening up to free enterprise, and then it was shut down abruptly in the late 80s. And also 15 people from Japan. And I learned that free enterprise is really freedom. Free enterprise is justice. Free enterprise rewards people that work hard and are prepared. And free enterprise is really what's made our nation the most powerful nation in the world. We control 40% of the economy, of the global economy, but it's because of the fact that we have competition, free enterprise, and market forces, where if you're prepared and you work hard, you get rewarded. And so, growing up Hispanic, I didn't think I was Hispanic. 95% of the people along the border were all American. They happened to speak English and Spanish, and it wasn't until I went to UT Austin that I learned that I had this label of being Hispanic or Latino. And of course, today, labels like Latinx, please don't use Latinx. It's just another label that doesn't even roll off the tongue in English or Spanish, that was invented. But, I decided that there was tremendous need in our community. So when I worked for Levi Strauss, after working at the Chamber and after helping the judge while I was doing consulting work, I was recruited to cover Latin America and do economic development. So I learned a lot about lifting up communities, no matter where they were. After I did that, I got to do economic development for the city of San Antonio for 7 years. And, what a pleasure it was to do that during a time when we recruited Toyota and so many great companies. And at the time, Mayor Wolf, at that time, was Judge Wolf at the county. And I think we formed a pretty good partnership, even though, he still thought I worked for him. He would pick up the phone and call me, and we would get things done. But people came here and changed the fabric of San Antonio. It was a $1.6 billion investment, 4,000 jobs, 21 suppliers in a city that had never had any automotive industry to speak of. And on the shoulders of people like Tom Frost from, obviously, Frost Bank is the sponsor of this series. This city was a very international city. Now many of those folks are doing business in Mexico. Thanks to the US-Mexico-Canada agreement, we were big champions of free enterprise, international and local. We did trade missions to Spain, to Mexico, to Cuba, many other countries. Israel, 20% of the people in Israel happen to be Hispanic or speak Spanish. And so growing up, I ended up falling into opportunities by preparation, but also by hard work. And so I was recruited to go back to work for the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I did that for 10 years. And I'm just so proud of the community that we have today. Many people like Red McCombs, Dolph Briscoe, Henry Cisneros, David Robinson, and Charles Butt, Leonel Sosa, all of these folks have been honored to speak here. And in my opinion, I'm just so blessed to share with you some thoughts about the economy and what drives our decision-making on a daily basis. I wanted to share with you that a little bit about the Hispanic community. I have my timer on, and hopefully I'll stay within 20, 25 minutes and then open it up to Q&A rather than take the full 35 minutes. The Hispanic community is 20% of the population. We have 332 million people living here in the U.S., and 1 out of every 5 people are described as Hispanic. Hispanics are a state of mind. We're not a race. We're Caucasian. We're Asian Latinos. We're Afro-Latinos, if you're Cuban or Dominican. We are LGBTQ. We're Jewish. We're Protestant. We're Catholic. It's really, when I say it's a state of mind, it's really whatever feeds your soul. And it's really led by our culture, our music, our love of family, and our entrepreneurial spirit. The dollar sign, very few people know, came from the Spanish peseta, that the most powerful symbol and brand in the world comes from the Latino community when the Spanish people first settled here and came here. The U.S. Hispanic is a $3.2 trillion economy. The GDP is $3.2 trillion. If these 63.5 million Latinos, which are 1 out of every 5 Americans, or 20%, if we were our own nation, we would be the 5th largest economy in the world. And we're under the radar. I will grant you that. I will say that we're not here to pound our chest. We just get the job done. 80% of most of the folks working in back offices, in restaurants, in construction, in healthcare are folks that self-identify as Hispanic. By 2050, the majority of the people living in this country will be Hispanic. Why does it matter? It really, at the end of the day, whether you're Hispanic or Anglo or African American, Asian, it really doesn't matter. We're all equals. The work that I do is to empower this community, that when they go to a bank to apply for a loan, they get turned down 60% of the time, even though their credit scores may be better, even though they may have more money in the bank, even though they have a history of paying on time. Another person that scared me a bit was a call that I received from your namesake of the business school, Carlos Alvarez, who's a longtime friend. He called me and in his beautiful Spanish, he said, "I'm so proud you're speaking. I can't be there." He says, "I have to be at Krista Santa Rosa for an important meeting." But then he used a few words in Spanish, Judge, that were not appropriate. And he wished me good luck, because he has a great sense of humor. But he's so proud of his name being on the business school. And he's so proud, and he's such a big champion for business. But he's a perfect example of someone born in Acapulco, and he and his brothers came here, and they've started several businesses. And of course, there's no question, you all know about the Shiner story, how he's just turned things around. And he's been such a great benefactor. That's why I do love the work that I do, is I've seen the growth in just the last 12 years, our GDP from 1.7 trillion to 2.4 to 2.8, and now it's to $3.2 trillion. To put it in perspective, India has 1.4 billion people. And the 63.5 million Latinos living in America, that 3.2 GDP is larger than the economy of the country of India. And so it is profoundly a very quiet tsunami of economic expansion. When Latinos get to college, they graduate at higher rates. 20 years ago, dropouts were 50% in the Latino community. Today, it's less than 10%. So there's this phenomenal momentum, and it's not momentum that's created by an ad campaign, by a group of advertising people. This momentum is real. It's profoundly important and strong, and that's why it's important that you all are in college, because everything that you learn, everything that you see is going to affect you later on in a positive way. I wanted to just share with you that the Texas economy is also amazing. Since between 2010 and 2021, the population of Texas grew 18% between 2010 and 2021. But the economy, the economic growth was 39% during that same 11-year period. And it's going to continue to grow. Our largest trading partner now is Mexico. It's not China. So the concept of nearshoring is not a concept anymore. It's a reality. All those Toyota suppliers that we created here that are Hispanic-owned suppliers are now doing business in Mexico. So I wanted to share with you that what we do at we have 300 Latino chambers. I used to run the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber. It was the first one in America, founded in 1929. We have 300 across the country. 3 years ago, I got a call from the new Hispanic Chamber in Honolulu. They called and said, Ramiro, hola and aloha. And I said, aloha, hola, and said, we've created a new chamber, and we just wanted to let you know 10% of the people on the islands, 1.3 million people, self-identify as Hispanic. 10 states in the U.S. received their name from the Spanish language, because this was all Mexico and Spain when our ancestors came in the late 1500s, 1600s. Montana is montaña in Spanish. Colorado is Colorado. Nevada stands for snowdrift in Spanish, La Nevada. And I could go on and on. These are elements, again, under the radar. People, realize are the names, but that is the history of a nation that's had Latinos here for 500 years. We have fought in every major American war for this country to create the freedom that we have since the American colonial period. I'm very proud that this year, Fort Hood in May was renamed after my dad's first cousin, 4-star general in the Army, retired, who passed away a few years ago here in San Antonio, 4-star General Richard Cavazos. The largest military base run by the U.S. in the world is no longer Fort Hood. It's Fort Cavazos as of May. And we're very proud of that in our family. The first cabinet person appointed by a president in 1988 by Ronald Reagan, the president, was Dr. Lauro Cavazos, who was my dad's first cousin. And he was the president at Texas Tech University. I ended up not going to Texas Tech, didn't make a lot of friends in my family. I ended up going to UT and, of course, studying at St. Mary's. But that's why we can't afford but to be successful in our family. That's our story. Imagine the pressure when you have a cabinet level person in your family or a general to do well. So I love to tell my boys, both Ramiro and Robbie, the three things that are important that have guided me successfully for 62 years now. I know it's hard to believe, Judge, you work hard, dream big, and stay humble. And that's your secret to success. Some other things that I want to share in the last few minutes before is one thing I learned from a lot of folks, including Nelson, is a lot of folks talk a big game. Don't let your mouth write checks that you can't cash yourself personally. Always back up your information. I cleaned that one up a bit, as you all know. Your net worth, all the TMI, your net worth is your network of friends and allies and people supporting you, and your teachers and administration and your deans. A vision without a plan is a hallucination. Mark Twain, one of my favorite sayings. I've been using it for years, but it is so true. If you have an idea, you better put it in writing, or else it's never going to happen. It's all, again, you won't be able to cash that check. You need to be positive. You are what you think. Think about that. You are what you think. If only thinking about bad thoughts, oh my God, I can't get that work done, or I'm going to fail. Flip it. Be positive. You will succeed based on your mindset. And I truly believe generosity is the key. The more we share, the more we have. And so I just wanted to also say that the last thing, when you trust people, you know the best way to trust people is the best way to know who you can trust is to trust them. That's how you find out. That's the best way to learn. So I wanted to just say I'm honored to be here today. I have a few final thoughts before we open it up. 86% of the new businesses started in the last 10 years in America were started by Latino businesses. 75% of the workforce growth in the next 10 years in America will be Latinos. 80% of U.S. Latinos are U.S. born. You wouldn't know that by the narrative of the 63.5 million folks that are out there. Bilingual, most of us are bilingual, but 94% of U.S. Latinos, especially millennials, prefer to consume content in English. Our income is growing at twice the rate of the national average. Our purchasing power grew 70% since the 80s. And Latinas are starting new businesses at 6 times the national rate of non-Latinas. So I wanted to share with you the buying power of Latinos, the last point that I would make before we talk about the isms. Life expectancy. 2 things that I wanted to share. We need to fix our immigration problem, or else we're not going to have enough workers for the future. Women are having children now in higher numbers from the ages of 35 to 40. It used to be 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35. Our fertility rate in the U.S. is 1.4, but we need each family to have 2.1 children to just replace the baby boomers that have retired. We have a huge gap, and it's hard for people to find people to hire to work these days. So even though life expectancy is longer, we do need to realize that the history of this nation is people coming from Germany, from Italy, from different parts of the world to seek that freedom, the free enterprise system that I believe is the secret to success and education. But without fixing our immigration problem, we're just going to be punishing ourselves because everybody that is here came from somewhere else. Let's be very honest. So the life expectancy of non-Hispanic whites is 78 in the U.S. African Americans, 74. Asian Americans, 87. Hispanics is 83.5. The median age of Anglos is 41. African Americans, 34. Asian Americans, 37. Hispanics are 29 average age. The years of effective buying power. So when people say you're just trying to get something for nothing, my dad had the saying, no queremos que nos den, queremos que nos pongan donde hay, which basically translated says, we don't want any handouts. Just put us where the action's at and we'll be effective and compete. And that's been the story of this community. Well, the years of effective buying power for non-Hispanic white is 37 years. African Americans, 40 years. Asian Americans, 50 years. Hispanics, 54 years. So it's not good corporate social responsibility to invest in the Latino community. It just makes good business sense. We're the workforce of the future. We're the vendors of the future, small business owners of the future. And then we're also the fastest growing consumer of the future. So those are the 3 reasons. So I wanted to leave you with my 20 rules that I've learned in life, Judge. I hope I can share them. Can you all hear me? Okay, rule number 1, and we'll open up to questions, Dean. Outwork others. I think it was Jefferson that said, good luck looks a lot like hard work. So you got to outwork others. Be prepared, be ready, anticipate. Do your homework. Rule number 2. Number 3, you have to be good at something. Be the go-to in a particular area. If you have a superpower, don't walk away from it. Strengthen it. Be the person within your organization people want to reach out to when you need that, and it'll rule your life in a positive way. Number 4, do good things even when others aren't watching. Yeah, I think y'all have heard that. Always do what is right. Number 5, this is my Winston Churchill. Never give up. Do not give up. How many people throw in the towel? Don't give up. You're going to win, Albert. Number 6, this is one of my favorites. Don't go along to get along. Be who you are. Seriously. It'll protect you. You got to show up. How many folks say, you didn't invite me? And then you don't show up. Or somebody knows. 70% of success is based on you showing up. Show up. Don't ask anyone or wait for permission to do what's needed to be done. You don't need permission to do anything you want to do in this world. Just do it. Be independent. Rule number 9. I love this one. This one I stole from a writer. You were born to stand out, so why fit in? Do not copy others. Be bold. Dr. Seuss. Believe in a higher power. There is a higher power, folks. And don't be afraid to talk about it. Do not tear others down to raise yourself up. Rule number 11. That's like wide open range today. Wake up on the wrong side of the bed so you can see things differently. Rule number 12. Believe in and develop teamwork, partnerships, and collaborations. I love to work as a part of a team. This is something that I really believe in. And rule number 14, don't worry about what other people think of you. You waste your time worrying about what other people think of you, trying to please people that don't care for you. About 20% of the folks in this world, they don't get you. So don't worry about trying to please them, because you'll waste time, energy, and then the people you're supposed to take care of, who take care of you, you're not going to make happy. Number 15, learn from your mistakes, but mean it. Don't just say it. Learn from your mistakes. 16, this is my superpower, Judge. No doesn't mean no forever. And I've taught a lot of my folks that no doesn't mean no forever. Eventually, you got to come back and come back. My own employees learned this, and now they use it against me. But people eventually come around. Number 17, people give money to people they know. So this is for the fundraisers in the world. And if folks seeking venture capital, people give money to people they know, and then people love to give money to people that make money. So money makes money. So that's why the rich just keep getting rich. Well, momentum. A positive attitude will help you achieve success. It'll serve you well. You are who you think. Number 19, when you drink the water, I learned this in Japan. When you drink the water, don't forget who dug the well. Always remember and be grateful for the folks that came before you. And then 20, do not let anyone push you around. Because if you do, it's because you let them. Don't let anybody push you around. I'm happy to answer any questions. Those are my thoughts. Thank you all.